The full opening weekend of the 2024 college football season continues even on a Sunday, live right here on College Football Today on SportsGrid. He is the mastermind of the college football pigskin. He is OK Dubs. That is Kevin Walsh. I am Ben Stevens. And the mastermind, of course, is Joe Lisi. Our fourth consecutive day of at least one college football game to start the 2024 campaign in full. 21 games on Thursday. 6 more FBS games on Friday. 67 yesterday to recap. And, of course, a marquee matchup on this Sunday night in Sin City. Our third and final ranked versus ranked game to begin this season. It's LSU and USC. We'll get you set for Sunday night in Las Vegas between the Trojans and the Tigers, and we'll look back on the wild and chaotic Saturday that we had to start off 2024 in full. Lisi Guy, how much college football did you end up watching yesterday?
Probably about 12 to 14 hours. I got to bed around 2:30, watched that game in Tucson between Arizona and New Mexico, and we're working on coffee and fumes, Kev. Coffee and fumes.
We find a way. Fafita and McMillan, we're putting everyone to sleep, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, just, tucked in.
Yeah.
Nice and comfortable and cozy watching them light up New Mexico.
Tetaroa McMillan, more than 300 receiving yards last night for the Cats in their 2024 debut, the first game under Brent Brennan for Arizona against New Mexico. High-scoring game out in Tucson. Part of the recaps that we will bring your way throughout this opening hour and on this Sunday on CFT. We're here until noon Eastern time, and we're not going anywhere. We'll get you set for the final 2 games of week number 1 as well. That includes the top 25 till tonight. 13th ranked LSU and 23rd ranked USC face off in Las Vegas. Florida State returns stateside tomorrow on a Monday against Boston College to end out week number 1. But Kev, let's begin with one of the marquee matchups from yesterday. It was the first game really that had the banner in that noon Eastern time window. In Atlanta, top 15 showdown between number 1 Georgia and number 14 Clemson. UGA closed as a 10.5-point favorite. The total at 48.5. We knew the defenses would be on display. We just weren't so sure that Clemson would be held to only 3 points. The issues that have plagued this Tigers offense continue, and Georgia rolls in its season opener 34-3.
Yeah, so this is one of those instances, just from the betting perspective, where mistakes were made. As somebody who loved Georgia in this spot all summer long, I said, maybe it's an over, right? Maybe that I should show some respect. Maybe their offense should surprise. No, and is this really this surprising? That, again, Cade Klubnik didn't look the level, that, again, the Clemson Tigers didn't look the level of the Georgia Bulldogs? And we've talked about it. It's been a very long time since Clemson has pulled up against an elite team and looked the level. I mean, I guess if you thought they hung with Georgia the year that they opened with them in that horrendous was it 10-3, 7-3 final score, 10-3? You're talking about when they were making CFPs. And what you see from Clemson is kind of what we saw from Florida State. You're lucky there's an auto bid for an ACC champion. That is your only way you are getting into the playoff if you are Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, I was shocked in terms of yesterday's performance, especially with 5 months of preparation to see the offensive game plan for Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik. They were very conservative. I counted about 80% runs in regards to first downs, right? That put them into predictable third down situations. They only converted 4 of 12 in regards to the third down opportunities, and they only opened it up, Kev, after it was too late, right? I talked to you about it throughout the game that I thought Georgia was just playing and toying with the Clemson Tigers because they knew that they won both sides of the ball as it related to the interior. They knew that they could push around Clemson, and that Cade Klubnik and that offense, Ben, would not threaten that secondary in any regard. And then finally you saw Carson Beck open it up, 23 of 33 for 278. He got going in the second half and proved why he's a Heisman Trophy frontrunner.
Listen, there's positives for Georgia and the number 1 team in the country in the preseason national championship favorites, where they remain after the first full Saturday. But first we focus on Clemson because that is the glaring issue. after 4 ACC losses a season ago, the most under Dabo Swinney since Dabo's second full year back in 2010. Would this be a resilient Tigers team that needed to improve offensively? Last year, less than 30 points per game. They have not ranked inside the top 3 in terms of ACC scoring offenses in the last 3 seasons, and it doesn't seem as though they have really changed anything. And, Joe, that's been the number one critique of Dabo Swinney. All right, by Clemson standards, you're not winning ACC titles every year. You haven't been to the college football playoff since the 2020 campaign. How do you start to change and adjust? He hasn't. They brought in 0 transfers, and we are seeing it rear its ugly head once again.
It seems like they're trying to force the square peg into the round hole. They averaged 2.1 yards per carry, so they couldn't run the football. They averaged 177 yards per game last year, and were inconsistent, right? And then the other aspect, too, Ben, is that, again, they were not aggressive. I mean, this was a perfect opportunity to break tendency, and they didn't do that. There wasn't a threat in regards to the outside. We talked about it in the pregame all week. They haven't had 1,000-yard receiver in over 3 years since Amari Rodgers. You're used to T. Higgins and Mike Williams and all those big players, Justin Ross in previous years. Where's the big play threat for Cade Klubnik, Kev? I just do not see it, and it's not going to get better. I do not see it getting better now. They just want to grind games out, and I say it's like the Dr. Evil of college football. Why win games 40-20 when you could lose them 17-13?
What I think is so interesting is the Georgia Bulldogs just beat a top 15 team by 31 points.
Yeah.
And none of us feel the takeaway is, Georgia's ready to do it again.
Yeah.
All in all, Georgia felt a little underwhelming. They went over their team total. They held Clemson to 3 points. The offense settled for field goals in the first half, which, by the way, kind of showed these guys can't hang with us. Kirby knew. Kirby was right. I mean, again, in terms of active head coaches that have won national championships, Kirby has 2, Dabo has 2. They don't feel like they're playing the same game. But for Georgia, you're judged on a different scale. And if you were playing Miami, we'll get there. Mm-hmm. I don't know what this game looks like. I'm not saying they lose. It doesn't look like this, though, right, because of the opportunities that were left out there. And for Georgia, due to the talent level in the SEC this season with the additions of Texas and OU, it's a much, much more difficult schedule. And there are going to be spots where this team could be had.
Last year, the Bulldogs had the 3rd easiest schedule in the SEC. Now, nationally this year for UGA, the 3rd most difficult. They passed test number 1, and they cover as a double-digit favorite yesterday in Atlanta, 34-3, the final. The theme lives once again. Notre Dame plus the points. It was our second ranked versus ranked game to end out the Saturday slate in prime time in College Station. Riley Leonard in his debut for the Irish prevails for Notre Dame 23-13 over Texas A&M. The Irish win outright. Kev's a 2.5-point underdog.
What's the saying? It looks a little different when that Rolls Royce pulls up. I mean, we hear all about these positive things about Texas A&M. Ooh, what if Connor Wegman? Ooh, what if Mike Elko? Ooh, what if this defense? I mean, did any defense have a better performance than what Notre Dame just put on? Mm-hmm. I mean, unless you don't believe in Connor Wegman, which is totally valid. But there's going to be a team that might draft this kid in the first round, and Notre Dame held him to 12 for 30 passing, 100 total yards, 3.3 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, 2 picks, and did a whole bunch of nothing on the ground. I mean, they dominated this football game. The offense didn't have it, and that's concerning for Notre Dame big picture in terms of winning a title. But as somebody who didn't have them in the CFP, I think they should be one of the 3 biggest favorites to make it.
Absolutely. Offensive line was the biggest thing. When they had to run the football, Ben, they did a $198 on the ground, and you saw the mobility of Riley Leonard in the fourth quarter.
12 rush attempts, 63 yards for the Notre Dame quarterback, propelling the offense. The downfield passing attack under Mike Denbrock remains a work in progress. Former Clemson wideout Bo Collins, the leading receiver for the Irish last night. But the ground game was great for Notre Dame. More recaps come your way to start college football today on this Sunday next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton, they will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton could actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We continue to recap the marquee matchups from the first full Saturday of the 2024 college football season, live right here on a special Sunday on College Football Today. So, Notre Dame goes on the road to Kyle Field in the raucous environment to start a season as a 2.5-point road underdog, and the Irish win outright 23-10, spoiling the debut of Mike Elko's era, Joe, at A&M. But for Notre Dame, a statement made yesterday. We'll get to Miami in just a moment, but Notre Dame, very prolific yesterday, winning by double digits. Lisi, guy, when you think about the Irish and their season outlook after last night, how has your evaluation changed, if at all?
Not at all. Nothing has changed in regards to my assessment on Notre Dame after that win because I expected them to win in College Station. I like them at minus 170 from a schedule perspective, Ben. I think it lines up very well for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame to be at least 11-1 in regards to the schedule. They do have to play USC. I mentioned 2 MAC teams in Army and Navy as well, and Kev might bash me for that. But still, those are games that they should win. They did exactly what they needed to do in terms of that matchup. They waited. It was almost like a counterpuncher. They waited for their opportunity. Once they got it with about 8 minutes left and they scored and jumped up, the defense took over. And again, Jeremiah Love really proved the physical rushing attack in the final 4 minutes. That's the biggest thing for me, Kev. Nothing changes. I think now you'll see maybe minus 230, 240 in regards to the playoff.
I do think that they should probably Georgia, Ohio State, and then I think probably Notre Dame. We'll get to Oregon. What an overrated football team that is. Told you. Cannot believe people are betting them at their price. And I don't care that it's 1 week, Idaho. That team's terrible. By the way, we don't have to do Oregon. I handled it for everyone.
Yeah, good.
My thing with Notre Dame, and you almost kind of have helped me now reset back to why I worry about everyone talking about everything being easy. At least 11-1. When do we talk about Notre Dame that way? And I don't know does anybody think this is a 12-0 type of roster? I understand. Because there's a big difference. Look, schedules can be easy.
Right.
It is hard to go unbeaten.
Yes.
And for Notre Dame, USC and Florida State are obvious. The nickname are the Spoilermakers. Last year they lost to Louisville. Georgia Tech's clearly scrappy. That game's in Atlanta. It's not a neutral site no matter what it says.
Right.
I think that is a huge victory. If you made me re-predict CFP seedings, I'd have to find a spot for Notre Dame. But I do still believe their schedule can be trickier.
Yeah.
And while last night's defense is going to give this team a really high floor, I still worry about the offense leaving them vulnerable in spots.
Yeah, the defense very, very good. As we saw it improved in year 2 under Marcus Freeman, a top 10 scoring defensive unit. They hold Texas A&M to only 13. They hold Connor Wigman to only 100 yards, the 4th best passing defense, looking the part last night with a couple of interceptions as well. The passing attack and consistency for Riley Leonard has to be better. But on the ground yesterday, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and Riley Leonard showing what Notre Dame can do. On paper, Notre Dame's toughest tests don't come until November. They host Florida State in a road trip to the Coliseum to end out the season. Now, let's go elsewhere. Clemson falters yesterday. They entered the first full Saturday after Florida State faltered in Ireland the weekend prior as the favorites. But then Clemson gets bum-rushed by Georgia. Florida State already has a loss and a conference one at that on the resume. So enter Miami. With all the expectations for the Hurricanes in year number 3, Miami matched it and then some yesterday in the Swamp against Florida. 41-17, Kev, the final. Cam Ward throws for more than 300 yards. Damian Martinez finds the end zone as well. A guy that has a Miami National Championship future is glad he got it when it did, because the Canes now down to a 22-1 price after a big win yesterday in the Sunshine State Showdown.
So much I could say, but Joe, really, no, I'd love your thoughts, breakdown, and reaction.
Yes.
I don't know.
Drinking the Miami cool. I'll give props. I was dead wrong about Florida. And again, Cam Ward is the real deal, at least in one game, right? 385 yards, 3 touchdowns. They were able to run the football, secondary forced turnovers, and Mario Cristobal did what he had to do in regards to winning a very difficult in-state road game. And now they have to answer the bell. Again, should they be priced where they are after 1 week? Yeah, absolutely, because we see the market fluctuation in terms of the overextension with Florida State and other teams, and now the hype with Miami. They had a 9.5 win total, right?
Yeah.
At the start of the year. So this was expected. The only question is, can they maintain that from the start of the season to the end? But again, a dominant full 4-quarter effort. They deserve to win. I was wrong in regards to that. I love Cam Ward. If he could play like this throughout the season, they're going to need that type of effort to go up against the likes of Georgia.
And let me say, I'm not giving you stick because you were on the Gators. Tough game on the road. It's where you land on Miami, and I'm wondering how much this changes the perception, because, Joe, they didn't just look better than the rest of the ACC. I know Florida's got that low win total. It's schedule-based. The Gators are going to catch one of those teams.
Yeah.
I feel like what we saw from Miami, again, the Georgias, the Ohio States, we'll see if they can, hang with those teams. But anybody else, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Bama, I saw a Miami team that belongs on that level.
Yeah, well, exactly. We know that they have the talent, and they've had the talent. It's just finding the continuity. Again, I'm not taken away from the win yesterday, but I can't buy in 100% and say I'm putting them on the likes of Ohio State. I'm going to put them on the likes of Georgia. I'm not going to put them, in the ranks of right now Ole Miss. And granted, I just feel like those teams are a little bit more complete, and that nothing changed yesterday, right? I think if Miami played Bama with your guy Jalen Milroe, I think they'd be up against it.
And that's fair. The reason why listen, I'm already in on Miami, and everyone knows that. Why I throw to you, because you've spoken highly of Graham Mertz and what he's been at Florida. When you look at what Miami defensively did in this game,
absolutely,
Mertz was atrocious, and half of the rushing yards came on one big run from Montrell Johnson.
Yep.
That's the other tale of the story.
Absolutely so. And I think you have to be optimistic about the Canes, where they find themselves in the ACC, what a conference championship means in the 12-team expansion of the college football playoff. The Hurricanes now the favorites to win the ACC crown at a plus 250 number. My mistake. Damian Martinez did not find the end zone. Mark Fletcher did twice for Miami. 385 yards out of Cam Ward. More recaps come your way next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton, they will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton's actually the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome back to college football today. A rare edition on this Sunday on SportsGrid. A very lengthy weather delay yesterday in the rivalry renewed between Penn State and West Virginia, but it didn't slow down the Nittany Lions offensively. Welcome to State College, Andy Kotelnicki, and welcome Drew Aller to the big show. Yesterday for PSU on the road in Morgantown, Penn State hammers West Virginia 34-12, easily covering as a 7.5-point favorite. A total of 49 and a hook stays under. We could go a variety of ways here, Joe, but Drew Aller throws for 216 yards and 3 touchdowns. Or you could look at the defensive effort out of the Nittany Lions, holding the best rushing offense in the Big 12 from a season ago. WVU, who averaged close to 230 yards per game, to only 85 yards on the ground as a team.
Yeah, complete effort. And Drew Aller stepped up 216 yards. He completed 11 of 17 passes. And again, we talked about it in regards to the pregame that last year, West Virginia, week number 1 was one of Drew Aller's best efforts, throwing for 323 and 3 touchdowns. The concern I had on the defensive side of the ball with Tom Allen taking over from Manny Diaz, they erased that. They held West Virginia to 2.3 yards per carry. We saw Singleton and Allen take over in regards to catching the football out of the backfield, Kev, and running it as well, over 220 in terms of that matchup. They continue that type of effort. Again, from the schedule perspective, everything lines up for Penn State to not just win a Big Ten championship, but potentially make the college football playoff.
Penn State, though, is for me a perfect example of why I'm glad the CFP rankings don't come out until later in the year. Mm-hmm. And to a degree, I almost wish they didn't come out until they came out, because they're 8th right now. There are going to be some losses in front of them. I mean, this team doesn't play a game where you're going to consider them losing until the trip on October 12th to USC. And their other teams will just play games.
Yeah.
So I won't be surprised if we do a Ben's Top 10, which we're going to do today.
Yeah.
Where you have them 4th, 5th in the country, and it'll be because they're unbeaten, they've looked really good, and all you have to do sometimes with rankings is get to a number, and even if you lose, it's hard to get you out of that range.
Yeah.
And this is the debates that we were having with our CFP brackets. And I know I didn't have Penn State in, and I know that you did. Yet I think we both might have said, okay, I like them at 10-2. All in all, if they lose to USC, they enter the game 4th ranked. They're not going to fall out of the top 12, probably, right? if they beat USC, they're probably automatically then into the college football playoff, no matter what happens in that Ohio State game. That's what makes Penn State so fascinating. I don't worry as much about the specifics of this game because the fact that I'm not a big believer in West Virginia. And Drew Allar's best game last year was also against West Virginia. I wonder if Penn State is, and it was almost reinforced watching them win a game that was supposed to be difficult, going to schedule their way in to a college football playoff berth.
It's a very favorable path. Penn State's bugaboo has been in the Big Ten East, not getting past Michigan and Ohio State consistently. They play the Buckeyes this year, but don't have Michigan on the schedule. And based on FBS opponent win total projections, the Nittany Lions have the easiest slate in all of the Big Ten this season. Let's fly around some of the other ranked matchups that we had yesterday, or at least ranked programs in action. Ohio State slow to start. They blow out Akron. Welcome Jeremiah Smith, 92 yards and 2 touchdowns in his debut in college football. Texas and Alabama shut out Colorado State and Western Kentucky in that order, but probably a thought here, Lisi guy, on Oregon. Just a 10-point victory against FCS foe Idaho. The Ducks were booked as nearly a 50-point home favorite in Eugene. What is your concern level after, albeit only one game?
Well, a concern is obviously Dylan Gabriel living up to the expectations of Bo Nix last year. 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, in the first half, he did have over 200 yards passing. They could not convert in terms of red zone opportunities, and they seemed to at least walk through the motions on the defensive side of the ball. So, again, was it a poor effort? Absolutely. They had dominated Idaho's 23 straight games. They were only up 14-0 late in the first half. They need a much better effort. But I'll just say this in regards to all the games that we saw yesterday. Yeah. The biggest progression in regards to college football and any level is game 1 to game number 2. You want to see if there's changes and if these offenses and defenses make any adjustments. If we see that, then we can move on.
Last year, Oregon won week 1, 81-7.
Yeah.
So just, again, for everybody that said Dylan Gabriel was an upgrade over Bo Nix, you're judging on the wrong scale there, and it's as simple as that.
Quarterback news as well yesterday against Furman. 418 yards and 5 touchdowns for Jackson Dart and 1 on the ground. Michigan started Davis Warren and struggled offensively against Fresno State. The marquee matchup in Las Vegas tonight. Next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton. They will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton could actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It is the opening weekend of the 2024 college football season in full, and it continues for a fourth consecutive night. 4 out of 5 days in this consecutive run of CFB with a marquee matchup tonight in Las Vegas, our third and final ranked versus ranked top 25 matchup to begin week number 1. On a Sunday night in Sin City, it's 13th ranked LSU, a 4.5-point favorite against 23rd ranked USC to open up the season for both the Bayou Bengals and the Trojans. Lisi, guy, let's start with a little bit of big picture conversation before we dive into the weeds of this matchup. It is year number 3 at both of these programs for two very well-established head coaches in college football. Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge. LSU has won 10 games each of his first 2 years. Lincoln Riley, year number 3 in Los Angeles after a disappointing 7-win regular season with Caleb Williams, but a bowl victory that provides a glimmer of optimism with Miller Moss, now the starting quarterback. Where do you think these two schools enter the 2024 season?
Well, the perception is that they're headed in opposite directions, and the reason why I say that is you talk about Brian Kelly in terms of year number 3. He had Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner. This year they're plus 125 to make the college football playoff. They started in the area of about 8-1. They've now moved 12-1 to win the SEC, and more importantly, they were about a 14-16 number to win the national championship. On the flip side, you have USC, Kev, with a 7.5 win total, a 20-1 shot to win the Big Ten. Yeah. That's unheard of when you just think about Lincoln Riley in his days in Oklahoma, and certainly in the 2 years with Caleb Williams for USC. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for Miller Moss and the USC Trojans to not just win this game, exceed expectations this year.
Well, I think it's really interesting. These are two teams that I'm in on both, right? I like both these coaches. I think both of these quarterbacks, while they have big shoes to fill, while they might not hit those levels, first and second overall pick, I think in the landscape of college football are probably a touch underrated, and we've put too many guys ahead of them when you consider the situations that these two quarterbacks are in. It makes this game specifically tough for me. In fact, I've kind of battled a bit from my futures of who do I need here? Who do I want here in this game? And I think if LSU gets this win, we can then kind of push them in that national title conversation a little bit more depending on how it looks, because that's the range that LSU's closer to than USC. If the Trojans win a football game like this, though, here on the road, I know the schedule's tough, right? They didn't get an easy break when it comes to that Big Ten schedule. But all of a sudden now you go, well, hold on a minute. Can you even if they went 1-2 with Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame, with 2 of those games being at home, at 9-3, I think the difficult schedule here of USC, and it's part of the reason I have them in my CFP. There's a pathway for this team to crack into the college football playoff.
And although LSU plays in the Southeastern Conference, the Bayou Bengals have the second easiest schedule of the 16 schools from the SEC. I also think the numbers tonight could indicate what 2024 has in store, both from a conference perspective, that outlook, and the chase for a college football playoff appearance. And my first focus, not to the 4.5-point spread in favor of LSU, Kev, but that total of 64.5. Two defenses that were atrocious a season ago, but with two great offenses. Think about the quarterbacks for these teams last year. The Heisman Trophy winner and Jaden Daniels, and the reigning Heisman Trophy winner in Caleb Williams. But LSU and USC both played 13 college football games a season ago. They are 2 of 5 FBS programs around the country to go over in more than 75% of their games. LSU over in 12 of 13. USC over in 10 of 13. Changes for both schools at the defensive coordinator position for both LSU and USC. And I think when you look at these teams' big picture, how the defenses perform tonight could say a lot.
Yeah, I'm on the under at 64.5. Part of what pushed me is I spent a lot of time on the total thinking about the step forward the defenses need to take, and then I was neglecting the point you made of, oh, yeah, the first and second overall picks played on these teams last year. Little exercise for the people. Last year, USC played both Washington and Oregon. Washington, that game total was 76.5. The Oregon game total, 78.5. If these two teams played last year, what do you think that total is? Is it in the
73? You think?
I think we're touching 80. I think towards the tail end of the year, let's say this was a November matchup, they're touching 80.
I 78, 79, I don't know. But, I mean, it's in the ball, right?
Right.
Between 76.5 and 80.5, probably. So I think the question then is, year over year, how much of these teams, it's hard to describe, but move towards an under team, if you will, right? Dropping the offensive power rating, pushing up the defensive power rating. If you said 9 points per team, I don't think that would be crazy. So even if you go to that high bar of 80.5, it's at 62.5 here. I think there's a little value on this under.
You see, I lean that way too. I don't love the total as much as I lean to the side in terms of this matchup, but I understand what Kevin's saying. I'll play devil's advocate in the sense of we have two different defensive coordinators, Blake Baker for LSU, and we also have Lynn that comes over from UCLA, right? And we both have two pass-happy offenses. Take away Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels from the equation. We still have Miller Moss that has experience, 372 in regards to the bowl win over Louisville, and Garrett Nussmeier got the bowl win over Wisconsin, right? Or do we feel like the lack of production with those quarterbacks is maybe 80%? Out of the 100, because LSU threw for 304 yards per game, USC 333, right? They're going to chuck it. So, the biggest problem, too, in week one matchups, Ben, is defensive secondaries reading coverage, especially with new schemes. So if this, let's say, in the first half gets into the, mid-50s, that might be an area where I might jump in as opposed to the pregame number at 64.5.
And the quarterback comparison is also fair as a representation of these two new programs entering 2024. Miller Moss was not the heir apparent to Caleb Williams. It was Malachi Nelson, but Miller Moss was great in the Holiday Bowl. As maybe we have learned about Malachi Nelson, he was not the five-star recruit and best quarterback in the country that we expected. He transferred to Boise. He lost out on the starting job for the Broncos. But Miller Moss, a Holiday Bowl record, 6 touchdowns against a good Louisville defense, throwing for more than 370 yards. And Nussmeier bode his time in Baton Rouge as well. 13 appearances in the last 3 years. In the ReliaQuest Bowl against Wisconsin last year, 395 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Again, defense is going to be a key component, not only tonight as it pertains to the total, but the season for both of these teams. D'Anton Lynn, the former defensive coordinator at UCLA, makes the short trip to downtown LA, takes over as the DC at Southern Cal. Finally, Alex Grinch was fired by his longtime friend and head boss in Lincoln Riley. Blake Baker comes over from Missouri, a Mizzou team that ranked in the top half and the top 4 of SEC total defenses each of his 2 years in Columbia. But now let's talk offense, because that's a fair component of this as well. You have said this many times, and you are right. Lincoln Riley's been a head coach for 8 years. First in Norman, the past 2 seasons in Los Angeles. All 8 seasons, a USC or Oklahoma offense has averaged better than 39 points per game. They have ranked inside the top 10 in 6 of those 8 years. It's what Lincoln Riley does. And for LSU, a generational offense a season ago. The best scoring offense in the country at 45.5 points per game, an offense that averaged more than 540 total yards. The only team, Kevin, in the country that averaged 300 passing yards and 200 rushing yards combined in both of those spots. So this is going to be an offensive affair as well in Sin City.
The big thing is, and I think why it might be a tick easier for USC's adjustment, just in that lane specifically, is there's no expectation that Nussmeier can replicate what Jaden Daniels did on the ground. I'm not saying Miller Moss is Caleb Williams, but if you told Moss to run around in circles and find an open man, there's a better chance he does that than Garrett Nussmeier turning into the best athlete on the field.
It just comes down to coaching for me in terms of this. I give the edge to Brian Kelly over Lincoln Riley, but we could talk about that a little bit later.
This is the 3rd straight year, all 3 under BK, that LSU has opened up the season on this Sunday night stage. Plenty more to come next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton, they will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton could actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
A new season in 2024 starts tonight for both 23rd-ranked USC and 13th-ranked LSU in Las Vegas on this Sunday as Week 1 rolls on in the college football campaign. It's also a new era for the Trojans, not representing the Pac-12 tonight, of course, in Las Vegas, but the Big Ten. USC enters their inaugural season in this league with the 5th best price, around a 20-1 number, to go home a conference champion. So let's talk USC, and then we'll look at some other Big Ten numbers and some notes, of course, from yesterday and the first full Saturday slate of the year. Lincoln Riley, in his first 3 years at Oklahoma, led the Sooners to a Big 12 championship, and all 3 years in a spot in the college football playoff. They never reached a national championship game, and in the final 2 years of CFP appearances, fell by double digits in both of those CFP semifinal matchups. But he does have pedigree, a 74-18 record, now entering his 9th year as a college football head coach. And Kev, he's one of 7 active FBS head coaches with a win percentage at 80% or better. So if the defense figures it out, and we just talked about Lincoln Riley's offensive pedigree as well, there is some hope for this Southern Cal team to contend for a Big Ten title.
I fully agree, and obviously I project it. I think so. Today's game is a 4.5, 4-point line, right? So it means that they're absolutely live in the game. You just look at the other 3 ranked matchups that are on their schedule, all against top 10 teams. Mm-hmm. We'll talk a little Michigan here in just a moment. Wasn't the most inspiring performance we've seen.
Right.
USC, if Lincoln Riley has this going, is can be a caliber of opponent that usually James Franklin goes, what do you want me to do, win the game? And Notre Dame, again, a great win for what it means for their season. If that offense looks like that, you're going to be in trouble against a Lincoln Riley offense. No, again, that's kind of one of my main selling points on USC. As somebody who was all in on Caleb Williams at the collegiate level, there's no world where they are, let's say he regresses this year, Lincoln Riley, outside of the top 15 offenses in all of college football. It's who he is. Yeah. That it gives you a high bar, and that was my excitement level for this team heading into the Big Ten, Joe.
Absolutely, and I'll just say this in regards to schedule. They play Michigan in Ann Arbor as well. They're 8.5-point dogs already.
Right.
And looking at that Michigan offense last night with Warren and Orji, they didn't look that prolific against, I want to say, a good defense in regards to Fresno State. Certainly not elite, right? So there is the potential for USC, I think, to overachieve. I have both of these teams making the college football playoff, assuming that neither one gets absolutely blown out tonight. And what I mean by blown out is 10 points or more and a Clemson type of loss. As long as that doesn't happen, I think they're both going to be there. For me, again, the rushing attack will be prevalent to take the pressure off of both quarterbacks tonight, whether it be Woody Marks that comes over from Miss State and obviously Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson for LSU. Whichever team can win the line of scrimmage in terms of running the football, that could sustain drives and obviously keep the opposing offense on the sidelines.
Again, 8 years as a college football head coach for Lincoln Riley. His offenses have always been in the top 10, top 5 in 6 of the 8. The defense last year for USC to concern, the third worst power conference scoring defense in the country, giving up nearly 35 points per game, the worst rushing defense in the Pac-12, allowing 184 yards on the ground. That is USC's outlook. A lot of trust will be put into Danton Lynn, the new defensive coordinator for Southern Cal, right away. Ohio State enters this season as the favorite to win the Big Ten, plus 145. That's where they remain after a season-opening victory against Akron. That was the game yesterday, 52-6. The Buckeyes did not cover as a pregame 48.5-point favorite, but still win comfortably. Oregon tested by Idaho, a single field goal game, 17-14 early in the fourth quarter, but the Ducks do prevail by double digits in Eugene. I think you could argue Penn State had the most impressive performance out of Big Ten teams yesterday. Or maybe it was the Iowa Hawkeyes. 40 points as they shut out FCS foe Illinois State. 40-0. Offense struggled in the first half in a game that Kirk Ferentz wasn't stuck in the sidelines for the first time since November of 98, serving a one-game suspension. But Joe, Iowa's offense came along in the second half in a big way. As you look at the Big Ten and where the odds are with a one-game sample size to use following the first full Saturday of this season, where does your eye go first?
Well, it still goes to Ohio State because of the playmakers, even though that they didn't step up consistently with Will Howard, 17-28 yesterday, over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, but very inconsistent in the first half. They poured it on in the third and fourth quarters. I still think on paper they're the team right now after week 1, but I'm still buying into Oregon and Michigan. Those to me are the two teams that have the biggest upside because we didn't see a lot out of the quarterback position in terms of progression. I think we might see that as the month progresses, and they have dominant games in regards to October, so that's where I'm looking still Oregon and Michigan to potentially surprise.
I think when you look at what Michigan did yesterday against Fresno, it's almost it's in the eye of the beholder. If you were low on the Wolverines, it's a major told-you-so game. If you're in on Michigan, like I am, you find ways to find optimism. Fresno State is not a bad group of 5 team. In fact, they're a pretty good group of 5 team. 0.4 yards per rush. Fine, take the sacks out. No running back over 3 yards per rush attempt. They were excellent on that side of it. Will Johnson with the pick 6. Colston Loveland finds the end zone. So did Donovan Edwards, who needed to be better. I don't know how I've convinced myself this, but I fully believe it, and I'm prepared to be wrong. I fully believe Alex Orji starts against Texas. I think they knew they could beat Fresno. I think Sharon Moore is that level of confident. And I think he knows that Alex Orji is so vastly different from Davis Warren. Every report out of camp was that Orji was winning that job. And then all of a sudden, dark Twitter has it that Davis Warren's going to get the nod. I know Warren led the drive when it was 16-10. I think Sharon Moore was confident. I think that we'll hear this week of practice for Alex Orji is incredible. And I think he steps out on that field against Texas, giving them a completely different look than what they're ready for.
That is the marquee matchup of Week 2 Saturday. Kalel Mullings, by the way, is going to join that backfield with Donovan Edwards. 15 carries, 92 yards yesterday for Michigan. We'll talk about LSU in the SEC and some other reactions from Saturday up next on CFT.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton, they will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton could actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Sin City on a Sunday between LSU and USC. The Trojans' outlook in their opening year in the Big Ten. LSU, of course, remains in the SEC. The Bayou Bengals probably happy that divisions are out in the Southeastern Conference because the last 10 seasons, Alabama has played in 7 of 10 SEC title games as the champions of the SEC West. And Alabama has won those 7 SEC championships, of which they have been in the conference title game. 2 of the 3 years that Alabama did not reach the SEC title, LSU represented the division and played in that SEC championship game. Lisi, we start with you. You're optimistic about the Tigers even contending for an SEC crown. So what do you want to see out of LSU tonight that leads you to believe they'll be there at the end of November?
I want to see those wide receivers step up tonight. Kyron Lacy was the 3rd option for Jaden Daniels last year with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. And obviously C.J. Daniels, Kev, the transfer from Liberty that comes in. Can he be that big play threat? I also want to see tight end Mason Taylor get reestablished in regards to the offense. He was a huge option 2 years ago when they beat Alabama and they won an SEC West championship. He seemed to go under the radar last year because of how elite the wide receiver core was. I think this is a perfect opportunity in terms of this game for Mason Taylor and obviously this player, Caleb Jackson, to get involved in the offense. I did interview some people close to the program. They say he's a dynamic playmaker going back to the likes of Kevin Falk. So keep an eye out for Caleb Jackson tonight.
LSU, by the way, when they watch yesterday's SEC slate, has to know that that offense needs to still be spectacular this year. 76 for Ole Miss, 69 for Tennessee. I'll still take the Milroe performance. 7 of 9 for 200 yards, 3 scores. How about 79 on the ground for another 2 touchdowns?
Give it to him.
Easy.
Hey,
no,
come on.
No.
Should be in the Heisman house.
All I'm saying is if it was Jaden Daniels, he'd have been out there in
No,
the quarter.
stop.
No,
Come on.
I know,
Come on.
I know.
This DeBoer's got him going
He's got
early.
something. Also, listen, just because I know I prod you a lot, it's Jeremiah Smith. I mean, that's cute and all. Ryan Williams. I mean, can we? Can we?
Yeah, good.
Two grabs, 2 scores. $139. Warming up in the rain, no gloves. I like what I'm seeing here.
I mean, when you look at Alabama yesterday, a dominant offensive performance. They shut out Western Kentucky, a rather prolific offense with an experienced quarterback in T.J. Finley, who had played Alabama twice during his Auburn days. They got blanked. And we saw, both on the ground and with his arm, what Jalen Milroe can do with Kalen DeBoer. Justice Haynes taking off, Jam Miller breaking off long runs. Was Nick Saban holding Jalen Milroe back? My column. I just kid. Nick Saban, of course, the greatest to ever do it. But LSU with a 12-1 price, that fifth best number in the SEC. Looking up, Kev, at dominant performances yesterday around the SEC and the team behind them in Tennessee. Quarterback Nico Iamaleava, more than 300 yards, albeit against FCS Chattanooga. But in his first start on Rocky Top, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dylan Sampson, 3 touchdowns on the ground as well. Josh Heupel's offense looking very good against the Mocs.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was also a little frustrating. Yeah. We were here on the show. Minus the points, the over. It was all that as easy as it looked. So credit there to Tennessee. I also will quickly mention, and I know we're getting into Texas a lot. Is there a world where Arch Manning at any point puts heat on Quinn Ewers this year?
No, unless there's an injury. I mean, he was, 5 or 6 for 98 yards. Quinn Ewers had 260 basically through 2.5 quarters, and Isaiah Bond proved to be the real deal. Yeah, he did go under because they pulled him. They were trending. If Colorado State could give you a hint. The betting card, I burned all my clothes yesterday, so don't worry. We're starting week 2 fresh.
Yeah, we're looking back because part of my handicap for the over in Texas and Colorado State of 59 and a hook was the fact that Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, and Torrey Horton were back for CSU, and they would score at least some points blanked by a Pete Kwiatkowski Texas defense yesterday. Quinn Ewers threw for 260 and 3 touchdowns. You saw Matthew Golden, the transfer from Houston, the transfer from UTSA, put up some yardage and 2 receiving scores yesterday. And Isaiah Bond, a touchdown in his debut for Texas. And then Arch Manning, through his first career touchdown for the Longhorns, 95 yards and a tud, also ran one in. Some levels of aura around the young Arch that we haven't really seen with his 2 uncles. Texas, very good, 52 zip over Colorado State, easily covering as a 34.5-point favorite. My rankings, Ben's top 10, when Hour 2 starts on College Football Today.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton. They will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton's actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.